Yo, what is up? So for today's trade setup for the day, one thing that we had looked at before changing assets to gold is that NQ and ES were looking very, very weird today. Looking at both of the pairs, we could see that with market open, ES had a crazy fucking sell-off, and with that same sell-off, NQ only managed to take out the previous lower time frame lows over here without taking out any of these imbalances first or any of these lows that followed. So with that being said, that kind of either put us in a higher time frame SMT, which didn't end up playing out currently, unless you would say from this point on afterwards is bullish. But regardless of that, we see that consolidation and price action isn't exactly giving us the imbalances that we would want or require to take a position off of anything over here. Although we do get certain imbalances in chain of state deliveries inside of this range over here, none of them are paired up with the right confluences for us to get a correct setup. So looking at that, I took that to take a look at gold. And with gold, with the end of Asian session last night, what we had was this last low was put in and a deviation drawn out from the candle wick of the bottom and the body of the top draws out these deviations, and this 4 standard deviation, which is again a very confluent standard deviation point, going back to the current market's price action here, we created a 1 minute AMD. We had consolidation of this level over here before wanting to reach back into this for an overall higher time frame 4 hour accumulation, manipulation, distribution. Looking at this previous 4 hour candle, we had a bearish candle, and following that bearish candle, a bullish candle that closed back inside of the range over here, meaning this next 4 hour candle is going to give us our continuation setup. So one thing that I should have definitely paid more attention to is been a little bit more patient coming into the session, as the sell that I did take that did end up hitting ended up only being the rebalance move for a higher time frame move higher that I didn't end up getting on side with as well, because I have already made my profit for the day. I'm up $1,000 from this trade right over here. So the entry model on that, as well as that 4 standard deviation, got manipulated into after this consolidation range got placed in, and then the top half consolidation. So accumulation, manipulation, distribution, rebouncing into this, and then if you draw out the deviation from this high of that bullish leg up before and into this last bullish candle, you see that the 2nd standard deviation is where we end up getting our reversal. So say for example, I wasn't in this trade over here. Even if I was, I would have been able to see the higher time frame bias and enter a buy off of this exact point here. And looking back at this here, it would have gotten tapped into perfectly with a stop loss just beneath this low over here, possibly even at the candle wicks if you wanted to be safer, but there is no reason to, as we have our bias and we want to see distribution of such. And we don't want to see the order block necessarily get tapped into as our PD array, as this 15-minute was just our cleanest level. But that's why you would also sometimes have your stop loss there. And if you end up getting stop here and seeing the continuation setup play out, you would take the continuation setup. But in this example here, you could have also just taken this rebalance after creating a chain of state of delivery. Well, not exactly chain of state of delivery, but we created a pullback into order block over here. That order block ended up getting respected with the candle bodies of each of these, and then targeting just the previous high that we created after taking the high out of this 1007 candle. We could see distribution to the upside over here, and same thing happens with another continuation trend over here. You could have entered here, stop loss beneath the previous stop loss, and with that original stop loss you would have still been in trade, and you would have been just taking the buy side liquidity of that level right here. So overall, today was a very good day. ES and NQ weren't providing us exactly what we needed, although moves were continuing on both assets. Gold ended up being the winner for today. Up $1,000 for the day. It's just over $1,000, and well, glad to make the first video on this journal. See you guys the next day.